Hey everyone, Genome here, catch you with my next episode in my How to Fix series. In today's episode, we're obviously going to be talking about the mutant Pyro. And like many characters on this list, I think this character deserves a little bit of attention and love because, honestly speaking, he's the most disposable character on the Brotherhood 2.0 team. And in my humble opinion, I think he has the most interesting and probably best kit of all of them. I'm even including Magneto in this. Blasphemy, right? But unfortunately, Pyro has two things going against him. One, he cannot function without Magneto. Not well, anyway, because a lot of what makes Pyro even slightly good is the fact that Magneto bunches everybody together a couple spaces, right? I guess you could put him with Polaris, right? Same idea. But he gets some other stuff from Magneto too, which is in the text. We'll go over that here shortly. But yeah, nowadays, and I find myself doing it too, Pyro often gets dropped off of his own team. And this is really unacceptable because he's a weird mix. He's technically a blaster, a damage dealer, but really he's almost more of a controller than a blaster. He's a lot like Wasp in that regard, but much more effective than Wasp. But once again, he needs Magneto, or he at least needs the field manipulation thing that Magneto does in order to reach his full potential. But you know what? Even with Magneto and even with everything going perfectly, he just isn't cutting it anymore. So let's get to talking about some things I would change on him to make him at least slightly more relevant or keep him on his team. So the two most obvious problems for Pyro before we even get into his skill set are his damage and his health. Those two things right there are what make and break this character, and this guy cannot survive anything, and his damage just isn't front-loaded enough to keep him as a valuable contributing member. That's why he often gets relegated to cleanup duty or whatever, or even drop off his own team. Plus he's really slow too. I forget what his speed is, but he goes far too late in the turn. His focus is decent. It gets a pretty good boost on the team, but let's see, speed's 95. Yeah, that ain't gonna cut it. And he doesn't really get any boost unless he's attacked. So he's really slow. So a lot of times, while you would want to be using his ult to make the blind for Magneto last another turn, most of the enemy team characters have already gone, and their blind is used up at that point. So it makes his ult a little bit weird to use. So you more often than not wind up using his special to start. Once again, his damage over time is decent. Not what it once was, of course, but he has to be hitting the entire squad for it to be even there. If he's just hitting 2 to 3 characters, his damage is really mediocre and no front loading at all. So yeah, he needs a big health. He needs a stat boost, period, to have any prayer. I mean, you could just about double his health, and he still wouldn't be keeping up, but it would be a little bit better at least. I'd say health more than his damage to worry about, because he is kind of a hybrid character, so we don't want to boost his damage too much. We don't make him Kestrel now, do we?
No, please.
But yeah, just boost his health, for goodness sake. Now, I've actually worked some things into his kit here that I'm going to do some theory crafting on to maybe help alleviate that somewhat, but still, it's not enough, man. He needs some serious help. He's one of those characters you could technically almost put barrier on just to keep him alive in the initial wave, so at least he gets his special off, because even AoEs will knock this guy down at higher levels. So anyway, the biggest problems that this guy has is his stats, and that's going to make or break you nowadays, but his kit's really good, basically as it is, but he just needs a little extra. So let's get into a couple things I would change here. His basic skill, which you don't use too often, but sometimes you do use, like on turn 1, because if you're trying to wait for like a defense up from Luke Cage to hit first before you use a special, sometimes you gotta be strategic. So a lot of times you do open up with his basic, not too often, but sometimes you do. So only thing I would change to his basic, other than damage, of course, is to give him some barrier for every target he hits. So if he hits 5, he gets, 50% barrier of whatever the damage he did was, on the front loaded. It won't be a huge amount, probably about the same as a fortifier buff, but it's something to give him some survivability. And he could use it strategically as the fight went on, just a little something. Most of what I'm doing to change is to help with the survivability. So that's what I would add. I would just add 10% barrier for every target hit, as opposed to damage. Kind of like the drain mechanic for the symbiotes, something like that, you know. Pyrotechnics, I really wouldn't change anything about this. This is a really, really, really good ability, unless you took away the need for Magneto to be there. It probably should be more like Magneto just adds, he already adds a lot of focus, but it adds even more focus to this attack if Magneto's an ally, to make sure you strip that defense up, that taunt, those things that this thing is aimed for. So, but everything else is really good here. The 2 crit, or the 2 bleeds, excuse me, and the clearing positive effects, usually all because Magneto's there, but his focus sometimes won't beat the checks, and you're not going to always clear everything. But this is really good against teams like S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, who threw like a bunch of stuff up early, because Nick Fury usually leads off. At least the AI does with his... actually, I don't know. I think he uses the special first. Whichever... No, he uses the ult first usually. But usually there's a lot of buffs by the time that Pyro gets around to going his first turn, and he clears just about everything. Really good against like things like S.H.I.E.L.D., but stuff with higher focus he might have a little problem with. But the only thing I would really change about this ability, though, honestly, is just the ability energy cost. I make it 3, so he can use this a lot more often, but he never survives 3 rounds even, so it's almost a moot point. He's certainly never going to make it 5, and no one on the Brotherhood's going to make it 5 turns, because they're either killing you in 2 turns, or they're not, or they're going to die, 1 of the 2. So that's about the only thing I would really change on this, is the ability, energy cost, and maybe make it so you don't have to have Magneto to clear all positive effects, and instead give him more of a focus boost on the skill itself. Just build all that in. His ultimate is really, really, really good. Super long cooldown, but that doesn't really matter. It's a pretty strong effect. I probably wouldn't really change anything about this. The only thing that really hurts this thing, doesn't make it completely OP, is the fact that he's so slow that he won't be able to prolong that first blind from Magneto, the team-wide blind. So, yeah, I probably really wouldn't change this. I think it's pretty fine as it is. It's a strong move. And finally, here's one of the things that makes Pyro probably the most interesting character on the Brotherhood, if we're getting really down to it. And it's not really anything to do with the first 2 things here. Yes, he gains some extra focus, that's fine. He needs it badly. And when Pyro's attack fills bar by 10%, it doesn't really matter. I'd rather it feel like Blob or Juggernaut's speed bar than his. It doesn't really do him any good, because he has nothing that can save himself. And once he gets focused in the slightest, a slight breeze is going to knock this guy over. But where he gets interesting is if Magneto is an ally, when the enemy drops below 50% health, apply heal block. This is such a strong, strong passive. And I would honestly get rid of like that second line. When Pyro's attack fills away by about 10%, it's pretty much useless. To go with that heal block, which is very important for a team that's basically 2 turns or nothing, kind of like Brotherhood is. It's pretty strong, and it's very unique, and I like it a lot, and it can go off several times in a match, depending if, they're healing back and forth or whatever. Technically, they should be able to heal, right? But, sometimes it happens. But for his passive, I would also add this, and this, I think, would be thematic and would help with his survivability so much, but not be broken. His passive, I would also add the text, when bleeds tick, heal Pyro. So think of it like, same kind of deal like the symbiotes, with their drain mechanic. Well, he's the firecracker. The problem is it's bleed, not burning, right? You can rename his bleed burning if you really wanted to, but whenever the bleed ticks, he gets a portion of health back, maybe 10%, or heck, maybe even the full damage of the tick, right? That could be a huge heal on him especially after Magneto's ultimate, everyone's put together, so you're talking like 5 ticks per. You make him an extraordinarily prime target, even more than he is right now. But it's going to be pretty difficult with Blob and Juggernaut there, right? This will give him some survivability from all that AoE attack, and I don't think it'd be too strong because his health pool's not that high. So regardless of whether he has full health or half health, he's going to go down in 1 single hit from Black Bolt. He's going to go down in 1 single hit from like Kestrel, those kind of things. But it would allow him to survive those AoE attacks that a lot of teams have nowadays, and just allow him to stay in the fight longer, to use more than one ability and be a little more useful, and there's no one else really doing damage on this team. So they really need his damage. When Blob usually winds up being the biggest damage dealer in the team, there's an issue with some of the characters. And that's the problem with Pyro. He just does not hang around long enough to use his great kit. So I am of the opinion to give him a couple things that will buff his survivability. Of course, boost his stats, but you can say that about any older character. But it's a true statement, you know. I mean, where's he at health-wise here? What is it, gear 12? 101,000. You know, you probably have that at one yellow star with Doom, and he probably hits that. So it's just way too low. And he needs a stat boost, and he needs some survivability built into his kit, because his kit on its own is actually pretty good. I wouldn't tinker with it too much. I would just add a couple things like the addition of barrier and heals to his to bleeds, barrier from his basic or something to give him a little more staying power, and then maybe the Brotherhood could start seeing some more use in things. Or you could even get more crazy and say, hey, bleed ticks will also heal Brotherhood allies. So once again, almost like the symbiote Spider-Man kind of passive. I don't think that would be too strong, but they actually have some raid viability then. They wouldn't heal nearly as much as the symbiotes would, but it would give them some sustainability, and it wouldn't make like every bit of what they do hinge on the first 2 rounds. And once again, kind of like power armor too. It's like if they're not dead in 2 to 3 rounds, the fight's over, and you prefer to have it be longer fights and more strategic. But anyway, it's enough rambling about that. So what say you? How would you change Pyro? Do you like the character? And other suggestions for abilities for him that you might change other than what I've said, or if you like what I said, hey, let me know that too. I'll take anything. So anyway, until next time, this is Genome, still trying to give some shine to those underappreciated older characters.